The world is very different now. For man holds in his mortal hand the power to abolish all forms of human poverty and all forms of human life.
It begins a very special time of the year for us. It's the time of peace and reflection. One thing we should all be thankful for is that we live in America, where we have the freedom to change things and the opportunity to grow.
I, John Fitzgerald Kennedy, do solemnly swear
that you will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States.
that I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States
And will, to the best of your ability,
and will, to the best of my ability,
preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
So help you God.
So help me God.
What up, what up, what up? So today's episode, this evening's episode of Red Eye, is brought to you by the color green. And so I think we're going to get into that a bit as well. But I want to, just as a sign of respect for Nikki Benoit, because you didn't do Nicholas Benoit, I don't know. Tell me if I'm spelling your name. How to dye men's hair gray is definitely the wrong you. This can't be you. You told me you had a video about UFOs. You're going to have to put it in is this the shadows? I don't know, dog. You're going to have to send me your link. 11 videos? Could this be you? I'm not sure, bro. You're going to have to get a name that I can find. But I know you said you found some UFOs, and I'm down. Just, I don't know where that's at. I was watching the Rick Rubin doc. We were just talking about that. Kurt and Giant, might as well start with that. Do you have any thoughts on Rick Rubin? You know who this guy is?
He is the man. He's produced so much shit out there. He's almost like the Gandalf of the music industry. So he pretty much told his whole story in the last podcast. But basically his big thing is he's so respected in the hip hop community because he essentially made a lot of big names into those big names because he helps them just record their shit. So. Word. Yeah, and he's done a lot of other major projects. He did the most recent album for The Strokes. He did Blood Sugar Sex Magic for the Chili Peppers. I think he did a few more of the Peppers. He did
Johnny Cash.
Oh yeah, Johnny Cash. The System of a Down. Their big Toxicity. Yeah, that whole album. And he does a very stripped down sound and a lot of his stuff. There isn't a lot of reverb on a lot of the vocals of what he does, but there's a certain magic that he helps these people create. I don't think he's even a musician, or at least a tremendous musician. He's just great at getting the artists in the studio and just...
He can't use Pro Tools or any of the tools. He just does guided meditation. He started out with anxiety as a kid, and he went to a doctor who told him instead of taking drugs that he should do breathing exercises. And so he's been, deep into breathing exercises and meditation since he was really young, since he was 10 or 12 at the oldest.
Yeah. A lot of it, you won't find a man probably with more respect in the whole music industry just because of what he's been able to work on. And who's the guy that did Nevermind? I think Butch Vig. Yeah, I believe that's Butch Vig. He's probably up there in the pantheon of music producers. But yeah, there's probably several other names. I'm not the expert on producers at all, but those are they're big names.
Yeah, I think of course, come on, Max Martin.
Oh, Butch Vig essentially conned Nirvana into doing Nevermind. That's a sidetrack. Sorry, that's a different story.
That's interesting though. I mean, yeah. So, but I was thinking about Rick Rubin because Rick Rubin is a G, and I loved this documentary that came out a year ago from Solar about it, and they show his house, and they show him talking to who's the kid who died that everybody loves. He helped the last album of Mac Miller, right? You know, he did a bunch of stuff for everybody. But he basically, the thing that I love about him is he like helps people. So Johnny Cash's story is interesting because Johnny Carter Cash, his son, shout out to Johnny Carter Cash, who watches the show and is on the Instagram and likes my posts about Kanye West Einstein, apparently. So thank you. Who similarly knows the story that Johnny Cash had been kind of relegated to the dark. Your dad had been relegated to the side of music for like, he'd been cut off from Columbia Records after Columbia Records had basically built it for them. And then he goes off and is doing night shows in Vegas and things like that. And so if it wasn't for Rick Rubin, we wouldn't have heard all the crazy Johnny Cash stuff and how Johnny Cash performed with Red Hot Chili Peppers, which comes up in the color green, by the way. But yeah, so Johnny Cash shout out Johnny Cash, Johnny Carter Cash, you're based. Okay, so Rick Rubin's been done. Edward, I wanted to open up to Giant. Giant, you had some thoughts tonight. And so I was wondering, what have you been thinking about and working on this last week, and what have you been focusing on?
Yeah, and I wanted to thank you, brother, for doing this tonight. It was very Halloweeny. I thought if we went into some of this stuff a little bit later, we would have to wait for Christmas or something like that because it connects to Christmas. So I had you pull up tabs and everything, so we're gonna kind of go through all these different connections with things that are associated with green. A lot of it is monster themed, and also connects into Christmas characters, Santa Claus, the elves, the Grinch, and other things associated during winter solstice. We were talking a little bit. I was telling you that there's these gateways that are spoken about that seem to line up with the solstices and the equinoxes. They say, as far as I remember, during spring is a time where a gateway to the dead gets opened, where humans can go to the land of the dead, and this is like somewhat associated with why Jesus was killed during that time, or at least the story, the myth of this character that dies during the spring or this Passover time. And then during Halloween is when supposedly the opposite happens, and the land of the dead can come over into our world, right? There's stories that are associated with that's why Day of the Dead and Halloween and all that have all these themes of ghosts and goblins and monsters and all that stuff. So yeah, I guess what do you think? I should just start kind of naming off the characters? We can go through the.
Oh, yeah, I mean, let me just meditate on that for a second. So thinking about Samhain is interesting. Samhain, I don't know why I want to read it. I still want to read it that way it is, but Samhain's an interesting holiday because the idea of the 4 holidays, and this isn't everywhere. You've got a 3 holiday thing for the Egyptians, and then the 4, so the quaternary process and the quadrinity process and the lucky charms and the connection in Ireland with green to the 4-leaf clover, right? Which is, you know, the quadrinity process. It's lucky that it's a 4-leaf clover, but it's really 8, and there's a whole thing with that as well. But there's 4 holidays. We think of Samhain, and this is so much easier, right? Because eventually you can't just do like every single, like Mother's Day, Juneteenth, they start to build up. I'm just telling you how it's going to go. You're going to get back to 4. Once you have every day is a saint holiday, once you have 2 to 3 saints a day, it's going to go back to 4 holidays, because what you have is the summer and winter solstice, which is huge, right? You have to have your solstice festival, you know, and then you've got your spring and your fall, right? So you've got your Samhain, your Samhain, your Imbolc, your Beltane or Bealtanen, I think is the way you'd say that, and then the Lugnasada or the Lunese or Lunasa. I mean, I'm not Gaelic, I'll admit it, although technically I think I am. But yeah, these holidays are associated with 4 different colors, which you see when the priests wear green tunic. There's a part of the year where the priest comes out wearing green. I don't know if you guys have ever been to a Catholic church, where they wear different colors, right? They wear red during the autumn season. They wear the green during the, or I think it's red during the winter season and green during the spring, and then it repeats into the other. I think there's a white one during the summer that happens right on the solstice. But okay, yeah, let's go to and buy my merch. Go to wait. Last thing, Voynich manuscript, because I wanted to ask Kurt what he thought, because earlier you were talking about your thoughts on green itself. You know, you said like it seemed like a new thing. Go on with that.
Basically, I was saying that, well, we were talking about green as association with death, Halloween, horror, all that stuff. And I think green, while it was obviously is very connected to nature, it's very connected to nature in a very specific way, in that we've often eaten vegetables and nature is naturally green. But we were talking about potions, and why are potions like always green when they're depicted like everywhere? And there's probably a couple reasons. Green in liquid form wasn't probably a very common drink in my view. And when you have something that's radically different in liquid form, that immediately like triggers some things in your brain. I think that's part of it. And also, if anybody was concocting anything, like if there were any shamans or any sort of medicinal doctors in society, if they were literally trying to create something that cured you, they probably used lots of herbs and shit like that. So it probably was a lot of cases, potions that were meant to cure you were probably at least green tinted a lot of the time. So I think there's a lot of overlap there, you know?
And I was just thinking about this actually, now that you're mentioning this. We were talking about this on another show, is that UV, I believe it's UVA, right, has something to do with aging, right? And the reason that I believe the reason that plants produce this green is because it's a rejection of a UVA, right? I think it's like they're rejecting the green. That's why it's reflected in nature, is because it's poisonous and it makes it so that it can't photosynthesize, I believe. So I wonder, sorry, that just came up in my thoughts when we were looking at that stuff. So maybe there's some sort of connection, because this is all going to lead into death and rebirth, and them trying to animate dead things in a lot of these stories, and those things being green, or the witches and them making these potions and stuff like that, and green associated with the skin color of the cartoonish witch. And so yeah, there's a lot of interesting things to think about. So I kind of just want to preface it that to the audience that this is kind of like on the fly research on thoughts that I was thinking about the connection between all these things. So nothing is panned out perfectly, but we're going to kind of dive into it and see.
Jordan made it. There we go.
Yo, Jordan.
What's up?
Like his mic's muted.
Yo, guys, how you guys doing?
What's up?
How's it going, brother?
We're going deep into how blue didn't exist. Everything was green, and then all of a sudden there's the nuclear winter, and everything went to lack of green, and so there's a confusion there. This color here is called Egyptian blue, but it's actually
nice.
It was a turquoisey green, and so the whole thing with, can you see a yellow dress or a blue dress?
Oh, that thing. Oh, I remember that. The dress is blue.
But we also just covered the Catholic Church association with the tunics to green, and I thought that was interesting because the Voynich manuscript and how green shows up in nature, and we talked about potions, but then we're following along with Giant's got a list of connections right here with the green persons. So what do you think about the leprechauns?
Yeah, so the connection with the leprechauns and the green, I feel it's obviously connected to Santa's elves. There's the leprechauns are known as like these shoemakers, or these fairy type things that protect gold, but also are creators of fine goods and stuff like that. And that's very associated with Santa's elves, and you just spoke about the 4-leaf clover and those connections. So it might be better to kind of, go through these different characters and then kind of go back and show any kind of connections to them. But that's one of the elements that they're associated with. Earth, usually come from underground and hide gold in these underground places. And then that is associated not only with elves, but also with the story of the dragons, and it's usually a green dragon. And these green dragons, protecting jewels and gold and all this stuff, and trying to either get it from the dragon or get it from the leprechauns. There's rainbow stuff that's associated with them and everything also. This might kind of go back to light spectrum and the UV and why plants reject green.
It's interesting when you look at the Apple Macintosh logo that the rainbow Macintosh logo is, I don't want to say out of sequence, but the Roy GB is shifted so that the green is at the top. So it repeats over. It's like the beginning. It's like a scrolling monitor. The colors are repeating at the bottom it's like a fractured rainbow.
And then the blue opposes it, kind of, I guess, connecting back to that blue thing you were just talking about. Yeah, I never thought about that. Interesting.
Yeah. It definitely, it's definitely an on-purpose thing. Why do we see green? We may grumble about rain, but it's one of the seasons Ireland's most vibrant landscape. Basically, long story short, we don't see too many shades of the red or blue. We see more of those because of berries. Bless you. And there's a frequency of green, which is in the 500 to 550 nanometer spectrum of the power density of light. So what's refracting, and we're seeing this because in nature you need to see where foliage is to eat. Right. So that was one of the first colors that we developed the capacity to see. People who are colorblind see in shades usually between 500 to 600. They can see like some of the green to yellow, and then they miss out on the blue and the red, which is kind of interesting. Although the red ends up it exists through the yellow and green being kind of a brown, which is interesting for color blindness. And you said Christmas elves. Why are they green? I mean, I've noticed this too.
Yeah. So,
dude, Will Ferrell, come on, man. You could have worn red, but you wore green. Now we all know.
I would say it kind of goes into, Santa Claus is wearing the red. You were saying that the Catholics, they wear the red during Christmas, but green during like spring. Spring is the opposing side to fall in that gate. These things may be somewhat associated with being kind of like Santa's little monsters or whatever that do this work for him, that he, animates and gives them all this energy. And he's the king of the elf, right? He's the jolly old elf, but he usually has the red on. So there might be some sort of association with that. I'm just kind of spitballing on why it is that they may be connecting these colors in, and there could be a lot.
Well, you look at the Moroccan flag, right? The cherry tree, the Moroccan flag. So they use the Solomon sigils and they use the pentacle for their flag to represent the cherry tree, and it's green in a red scape, right? So
very Christmassy.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, there's something to that. I think I see what you're saying.
Blood red, right? And then these things are dead, and so they don't have any more blood, and then they're green, right? Gangrenous or something. I don't know if that's a huge connection or if it's.
I had a friend in East German exchange student who came to America, and when he was a kid growing up, I was like, I'm gonna paint my room red, and he's like, no, don't do that. And that's a terrible idea. I'm like, well, what do you know? He's like, well, I used to go to school in a red room. And I was like, what do you even mean? It's like, yeah, they painted all the walls with leftover paint in our high school red, and people were getting sick and anxious, and it was just eventually they had to change it because the red all the time, if you're just in a red room, I mean, it's a lot.
Yeah. Dude, isn't there association with ruby and emerald?
Mm-hmm. That's true too. Would be emerald
green and ruby, or
right. I don't know what the connection is exactly, but I think is it the vanadium? I think vanadium is the material. Vanadium doesn't want to tell me. I don't know. But Green Man, it seems like that these things are kind of like the Green Man, right?
Yeah, so there's this nature aspect that we were speaking about before, where you have these older characters that they don't know fully what the details are. I mean, there's a lot of information out there, but it's a nature character of some sort, and this green, I've seen people connected into Sir Nuno, and then people also connect Sir Nuno with Shiva's, specifically him and his animal. He was protector of animals and nature, and that these are nature associated characters in mythologies, and you know, they're connected through this green, which is an interesting connection and connection in nature. And then there's also a character or a mythological character that's earth elemental, which is this like large green giant in a way. And then of course you got the jolly green giant.
I mean, this is crazy. If you look at the wiki article, because it says, it's all over the world. We're seeing examples of it in Nepal, where they say, in Iraq, Lebanon, Nepal, India, Borneo. I mean, it's like all over the place. But then they say, well, we don't know it's Tartaria, so we can't find the connection. So what it must be is that independently in the traditions of separate ancient cultures, Green Man developed and evolved into a wide variety of examples. So I mean, maybe it's just that everyone, it's kind of like we saw a dragon, we all just kind of made up dragon, or maybe there just really were giant reptiles. Maybe there really is a Green Man, or at least there's the unifying idea of the Green Man, and it shows even in Christian churches. So going into, it seems like it would be a pagan tradition, but you've got Green Men on cathedrals, right? So
yeah,
in stained glass. I mean,
exactly. Yeah, and so I mean that also connects into snakes being associated with green, dinosaurs, a lot of green association with dinosaurs, also green giant like things, or green dragons, right? And Puff the Magic Dragon, and Godzilla is this large, reptile, green dragon sort of entity, right?
Dude, Puff the Magic Dragon has the best cover story ever. That it's just about like letting go of puffing marijuana. I get that. I get that that's what the cover is. But, I mean, that's a weird metaphor to use. Then that this kid knows a dragon, he's going on adventures with the dragon. I mean, the cartoon. Have you ever seen the Puff the Magic Dragon cartoon?
Yeah, it's been years.
My God,
wasn't there a movie? I don't know if it was Puff the Magic Dragon, but there was a green dragon with a kid. Isn't there? It's always associated with the kid.
Peach Dragon, I think you might mean.
Yeah.
Peach Dragon's wild.
Oh my God, that thing.
Yeah, you remember this? And it's got Shelley Duvall or something. I forget. I think Shelley Duvall is in this movie as the mom. She's in the Apple Dumping Gang as well, and in Last Stop in Greenwich Village. So she's in all these weird movies, Wild in the Streets and everything else, but then she plays the mom in Disney movies, like doing all this crazy stuff. Yes, kids see the dragon. No one else can see the dragon. It's multiple or flatland dimension. It's flatland, right? Because it's a 2D thing in a 3D world. So he's able to see in between the interdimensionality. Of course, it's not just green. It's got pink hair.
Right.
Which is the opposing color complement. Yeah.
It seems somewhat associated, right? Is this thing that we can't see, kind of like we don't, really see any of these monsters, and no one's really seen Santa Claus or anything like that, right? So there might be a layer of connection there.
This kid does. They made a new Peach Dragon, and it was like a furry, but it was trying. I could see where they were going. They were trying to go with the Never-Ending Story thing. It's just
total ripoff.
I mean, it didn't quite do it for me, but I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'll watch it again.
Yeah, that makes sense, right? This kid sees it, right? And kids see Santa Claus and believe in Santa Claus, and kids see monsters under their bed, right?
Yeah. I think the thing is that the movies that you don't like, the movies I don't like, it's not really important that I don't like them. It's not about that. It's about what they were trying to tell us with the movie.
Yeah.
And this movie is probably not designed to be as entertaining as it was designed to be, like revealing about the occult. So I regret just thinking, oh well, I'm not enjoying myself
Yeah.
when I'm watching the movie.
Yeah, I never seen it, but I remember watching stuff on it. All right, so yeah, this is a picture of Cernunno. Did you get a picture of the Shiva one?
Yeah. Let me see if I can find where Shiva's at. Here's a Shiva. I'll go back, but it's interesting also with the green.
Yeah.
And examples there, and a lot of the thing that's interesting is the blue again used to be green. I can see. Let me see if I can show you this Shiva green. You'll see tons of examples of the former green Shiva that existed. There's a. I want to find the more ancient pictures of it, but because they didn't have blue ink, they had green ink a lot of the time, and it wasn't. It was probably about the 18th century that they. So in the last 200 to 300 years, that they started really going with blue Shiva over green, as far as we understand, which is very interesting that we think of these blue characters that might have been green.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, so there was one you had where he was sitting with the animals. This is one of the older known ways that Shiva was represented is that he was the protector of animals and nature. And so he has those horns, right? And he's sitting in the same kind of seated position. And if you look at the picture of Cernunno, it's very similar, and some people argue that that is just the same character. It is Shiva, or Cernunno is Shiva, or, they just, different cultures, they change the name or whatever.
Interesting. Yeah. The hands
And then, of course, the Cernunno links into a lot of people connect it with CERN, right? And that's why he has that like circular thing that's coming back, and
the coiled snake, right?
Yeah, and it seems to like open the gates, and that people believe the gates to hell, right?
Dude, that guy flying around on that fish, I guess. I mean, that's pretty interesting. Crazy.
Yeah.
Did you know what this guy's supposed to be by any chance? His buddy?
No, I don't actually.
Maybe his
look into that.
Yeah.
I probably knew at one time, but it's been so long since I looked into a lot of this stuff. I was just throwing it together, just off my mind. I was just like, all right, all these things are kind of somewhat associated.
Appears as Herne in Shakespeare's Merry Wives of Windsor. He also embodies a fealty to the realm and guardianship of royalty in some traditions of Wicca. The cycle of seasons follows the relationship between the horned god Cernunnos and the goddess. During the fall, the horned god dies as the vegetation in the land goes dormant, and in the spring at Imbil, he is resurrected to impregnate the fertile goddess of the land. However, the relationship is a relatively new neo-pagan concept, and there's no scholarly evidence to indicate that the ancient people might have celebrated this marriage.
Okay. Interesting. Connects into those seasons again, right? The equinoxes and dying into winter.
Not Cernunnos. There we go. Cernunnos. Okay. Yeah. All these pictures. He's got the antlers. He's got this. What is this thing in his hand here? Do you know what this is?
No, I mean, your guess is as good as mine. It's some sort of probably energy weapon, tool. I'm not quite
Interesting
sure.
That it looks like the Omega symbol, or a crown, or
It's one hell of a septum piercing.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. He had a big face.
Wearing a torque, and sometimes holding a bag of coins and a cornucopia. Okay, it's a cornucopia.
Yeah, that connects into it too.
Wow, there's a little bit Mandala for you. So he's fruit of illuming really hard.
Yeah.
Cool.
Never. What is it? The forever giving basket of food or whatever.
You ever read the Black Cauldron?
No.
In the Black Cauldron, not just the Disney version that they cut as much out of as they could have, which is still scary, by the way. But in the book, they've got his little buddy has a, first off, there's a six-fingered man who's a wizard who cuts off his finger and puts it in a drawer. And then the kid finds it and sews it onto himself. And that's how he's got the magic of the six-fingered man. Because he's got, or maybe the other guy had 5 fingers and he magicked one, but now the kid has 6 fingers. But then his groggy guy here gets a basket of food that can't ever be emptied, of apples and stuff, and he's always eating forever. They have to stop the Black Cauldron from having a corpse put in it, because then all the undead will rise up, and then the only way to put them back to sleep is to kill somebody else.
And look at the green coming out of the cauldron.
Right, and it was interesting. Load in the movie version. What they did was they've got this template here of the picture behind it, and then the green is literally filmed of smoke coming out, so you can see like real smoke. I don't know if I can see the black cauldron smoke, but yeah, it doesn't matter. But it does. It was like instead of animated, they had real film of the smoke in the animation, and it was green, lit with green.
Yeah, very interesting. Yeah, and isn't there like an old like Russian tale of like Noni and the pasta, and the pasta keeps coming out of the cauldron. It never
Oh
ends.
yeah, endless pasta. Was it witch endless pasta? There's definitely like is that the book right there? Okay, no, that's not it. There's this story right where the witch makes an endless bowl of pasta, and
Yeah, I think there it is.
There it is, and then like it just. Oh man, remember that? Did they make you read this? Were you guys in the Agenda 21 pilot program like China and I were? But
I guess only in the Bay Area.
Yeah, this was nuts. But so he gets this bowl of pasta and he tries to eat it until he basically dies, right? I forget the deal.
It just keeps, it like takes over, just keeps coming. Kind of the same thing as the cornucopia idea, right? And there's an old Indian story too. I believe it's called Atharai or something like that, where it's this forever giving female character that's in the Hindu pantheon of gods that just keeps on endlessly being able to give food and apply food. And I think it's Aatharai. I can't remember for sure. It's been years too with that.
Yeah, no idea. Well, the Azure dragon, though, kind of interesting. Of the 5 dragon gods and the Chinese triads named after the dragons, and they've got different colored dragons, but the green dragon is essential. What's the deal with the dragons?
So the tavern that the founding fathers, or at least Revere and I believe Adams, or I mean what's his name? The beer company that's named after him. What is it?
Yeah, Samuel Adams.
Samuel Adams. Yeah. They were. Wasn't it Green Dragon Tavern?
Let's see, Green Dragon Tavern. There it is. Although Boston is already deeply steeped in American history, those looking to walk the trail of the founding fathers should stop in at the Green Dragon Tavern. Although the Green Dragon isn't located in its original building, which was razed during the 1850s, you can still see a small sketch of one of the oldest taverns in America on its current walls. A sketch of the original Green Dragon, which hangs in the current Green Dragon Tavern on the right, represents reprinted by Boston Beer. Let's pull it up here.
So it's the death. It's the death of English's rule and the birth. So there's this death and rebirth thing associated with it of America, right?
Right, and it's interesting.
Starting of the revolution.
These refoundings and the continuation of the tavern. So who knows where the tavern was before that? Was there like an old North Barrack tavern or something, or a Bristol tavern that ended up being transplanted, bringing the same group and club, and the association with fermentation too. Fermentation.
Yeah, and witches or women.
Yeah, witches brew. The idea of witches brew being medicines, right? And often green, of course. Yeah, that's a thing. And you talk about Godzilla a bit, but like, what is the deal with? Because Godzilla is kind of an interesting character, right? Like, there's so many different versions. The original one that I can think of is a nuclear story, but there probably is ancient versions of Godzilla.
Yeah, and then Godzilla is connected in just because it's this large green monster thing that kind of grows. It's kind of reminiscent of like the Ninja Turtles and them finding that green goo and getting bigger, right? They're kind of I would say some sort of spin-off.
Gojira means gorilla whale. I didn't know that. That's interesting. Gojira and Kujira whale, gorilla whale. Okay.
Gorilla whale. Interesting.
Yeah.
And that links into what's it called? The one he was just fighting. What's the Godzilla? I mean, what's the gorilla one again? King Kong.
King Kong.
Yeah.
King Kong versus Godzilla, and they fought at sea too, didn't they?
Yeah.
That was a cool movie. I felt like that one was like so revealing that remember, do you guys ever see this one? They go to Hollow Earth, right? And then that's where King Kong is living, is inside of the Earth in the Hollow Earth.
Yeah. And the dragons, right? They come out of the Nagas and the Hindu epics, right? These dragons, they're protecting gold and gems, everything underground, right? They all come out of Earth. The leprechaun is the same thing. He hides underground in the Earth, right?
And yeah, he's in these giant caves that are like thousands of meters, so you're able to see the sky above, like as rock cliffs and everything.
And the elves, right? They're in the North Pole, and the North Pole, that's where they say the entrance to Hollow Earth is up in the North Pole, right? Or one of the entrances.
Yeah, how do you spell that? Yggdrasil? Not Yggdrasil. Yggdrasil. There we go. The idea of that center tree, that came up a little bit earlier on the show. We were talking a bit about NASA. What do you think about that? I mean, hey, the green world, center of the Earth, the North Pole being this, it's a pole. It's a living pole. It's a tree. What do you think about the tree of Earth? The Yggdrasil.
Yeah, I think it's, I've said this on other shows. I think that it's connected. At very least, there's some sort of connection with probably, Vishnu and the lotus coming out of his belly button. I don't know what direction it goes or it's coming from, but this connects to the polar stars, and that they have a Bijit, which is, the nakshatra, or the lunar mansion that's associated with Brahma. And Brahma is the one that comes out of the lotus, that comes out of Vishnu's belly button. He's the creator of this world. And then, the spin of the polar stars, or the way that it moves to different polar stars every so many, thousands of years, it looks like a swastika. And then you start looking into like the swastika connection to this green dragon and a lot of Asian art and stuff that lead you back to kind of the green dragon group that live underground, right? So there's these the green dragon, the black dragon, and the what's the Japanese mafia or whatever?
Oh, the triad. What's it called? The Yakuza?
Yeah, the Yakuza. And have you seen this connection? Any of you guys?
I mean, obviously they have tattoos. What do you guys seen that, right?
So they said there was this conspiracy that the black dragons and the green dragons are like the Yakuza, or like hitmen or whatever. They're like the strong arm, the Jesuits behind these secret groups. And that the green dragon group, there was a guy, he's called the man with the emerald gloves or something, or the green gloves, that went and was meeting with Hitler and the Nazis, and they ended up I think committing seppuku and killing themselves there. They found their bodies in Germany. And there was an occult. There was a guy that was into the occult that brought them. And then the story is that they're from the Himalayas, and that there's an entrance into the underworld. And then this green dragon is the master of the universe, or of the world, the main guy or whatever.
It's pretty dope.
Yeah, I wish I had that actually.
Beowulf dragon is that though, right? I mean, the whole story behind Beowulf, he has to make a deal with the devil, but it's the dragon. It's the princess dragon. His son, or his child, is the child of the dragon, right? And so he has to make a deal, and the dragon lets him run the world above, but it's only at the permission of the dragon, who is green.
Yeah. Exactly.
That green creature from the Black Lagoon.
So yeah, so the I was mentioning, like, we were talking a little bit earlier before we started this about like Monster Squad, and then how a lot of the monsters, Frankenstein and Creature from the Black Lagoon, just so you see a lot of, the witches, a lot of them are shown as having this green skin. So, I didn't dive too far and thought about specifically anything about the Creature of the Black Lagoon, and I don't know if I know too much about.
Dude, this movie is so freaking underrated. Let's just do it. So imagine it's 1958. Let's just do it. 1950s 3D movie. Like, imagine you're a kid in the 50s. I mean, just I think 2017 they stopped making 3D TVs. So remember what they took from you. But there was a point when there was 3D and it was normal, and it wasn't the 80s. I'm talking about the 50s. People could go to a movie and they could see it in 3D. It was freaking crazy. And like to be a child and have this giant monster come out of the screen at you, I mean, things were so much more impressive at that time. Cool. But the classic 3D movies provided, yes, there's so much. But I lost my page. Let's go back. Creature Black Lagoon. So one of the earlier like effective 3D movies. It premiered in Detroit. It has this story of this woman who meets this, like, it's very King Kong, right? She meets the sea monster. Geology expedition to the Amazon uncovers fossilized evidence, a skeletal hand with webbed fingers from the Devonian period, right? Which is when Blavatsky talks about Lemuria, that provides a direct link between land and sea animals. Expeditions lead Carla Maya orders his two assistants to stay in the camp while he visits the marine biology lab, and they find the merman is essentially what it is. It's a merman movie, and it's just not a very beautiful woman. It's the Baphomet of Pan to the sea monster, right? Which is ironically played by the rather handsome Rico Browning. But so there was some pretty important things in the film, but what was the thing I wanted to bring up about it? Oh, what's it called? Water ape theory was just a thing. That aquatic ape hypothesis was coming out at that time. And it was, there had been someone in the 1890s who talked about it, but they'd kind of dismissed him and poo-pooed him because he was British, and British people were like, no. But then a woman talked about it, Elaine Morgan, and she put it forth in her book in 1972, but there'd been tons of evidence in the 50s that she was researching, and everyone was just like, don't even listen to her because she's a woman. But talking about how much evidence there is of there being whales have fingertips and toes. Humans have fur that goes against the sea. So if you swim, your hair goes the other direction, so it's easier to swim through. We're not covered in as much fur as apes. That would make it harder to swim, but we are hyper fat, more fatty like whales are. All these connections there that started to emerge. So there was a big reveal from the Creature from the Black Lagoon of just that idea of our coming back from the sea, or whatever that means. And even in a more recent period, I mean, it's kind of like a prototypical water world.
Yeah. And I would connect that into, into Janus. We're going to do some connection into Janus and the gate there. And a lot of this, I was trying to originally just connect Halloween and Christmas, and then characters that are kind of born around Christmas or when these books are released and stuff like that. So I would say that, a connection I see with the Creature of the Black Lagoon and this, water ape is Capricorn is, and you said like Baphomet or Pan, Capricorn is kind of like the Pan that has the fish.
It comes up green. What do you know?
Yeah, and has the fishtail. So there's probably some association where the characters
water goat
connected
Capricorn is sea Baphomet. That's pretty intense. Yeah.
And the winter is the ocean of the astrology or of astronomy. It's the area that Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces sit is kind of the deep waters, the abyss of the sky, of the constellations.
Brutal. Yeah, I mean, like, this Capricorn is an interesting one. When is the age of Capricorn? Age of Capricorn.
It'll be in the next either 26 thousand years or it can happen a lot quicker. It just depends. And at one time, supposedly Capricorn and Aquarius were just one sign because they're both ruled by Saturn. So they're the ones that oppose the sun and the moon on the opposite side. It's, most of all the other planets, their opposition or their other sign that is ruled is across the chart. They're right next to each other. And there is some ancient evidence to show that they were considered one sign at one time.
I was trying to find the original ancient Sumerian. Where is it? The ancient 7 talismanic symbols. And it's interesting. I just saw this yesterday, but I can't find it now. But it was the symbol for Saturn and Venus are different. Saturn looks like a 6. I don't know where it is. Is he Sumerian, maybe? Sumerian. Or version? I don't know. I'll find it another time, I guess. But yeah, but the Green Man does seem to be more pervasive. You see, like Shrek as and I did my episode on Smash Mouth talking about how Shrek means fright in Yiddish and German, and the original idea of the fright being your inner self. And so, of course, the Shrek is green, but where's the princess? Shrek princess.
I ain't the sharpest tool in the shed,
dude. Right? Yeah, hail Smash Mouth. I get it. I do.
Finger and a thumb.
I mean, it's weird how closely you can tie hair gel to Satanism, but I could do it. And also those shirts.
But I can do it, motherfucker.
Those shirts with all those red flames and everything from the 90s. You remember like the early 2000s?
Yeah. Too cool for school shirts?
Oh, where is that? Like flaming shirt?
Yeah, Slim Shady.
This remember the days of this?
Guy Fieri over here.
Oh my god. Guy Fieri and Smash Mouth are also connected to each other, not just through Satanism. But so the Green Princess, because she meets the Green Man and he is the primordial self and he is so himself that it's better than being, not quite good, right? So she realizes trying to be the best version of herself, or the best she can be, isn't as good as just being the best version of herself. And so she reduces using reductionism, she reduces herself from all of the societal goals that have been set out for her, and she becomes a primordial shriek, the Shrek, the fright, her own fright of being herself. And so that's how she becomes the Green Princess Shrek, right?
Back to her animal nature, right? A little bit more animalistic.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be more, natural, right? So it's all connecting back to, the Sir Nuno and just nature as a whole, right? Being a little bit more beastly, I guess. I would see that's a connection. And obviously Shrek is somewhat reminiscent of the Hulk, right? Incredible Hulk.
Right. Before we go there though, Monster Squad, you know all the monsters. We were talking about this a bit. Remember Monster Squad?
Nice.
Dude.
Yeah, good old Monster Squad.
Classic show. I recommend a television show from 76 to 77, and I think there's a movie about it as well. And yeah, basically it's the better. What would you compare this to? That's from today.
Did it say it came out September 11th?
Did it? I just didn't even think about that. Yep, September 11th. On NBC.
Interesting. Yeah, another weird connection there. I'm sure David
until
Clayton
September
would love
3rd.
it.
Yeah, until September 3rd the next year. So September 3rd also, in terms of the week before, I think everyone loves the prep planning stories. Okay. Green people though abound, right? That's a big thing. All of you were saying monsters in green. I mean, it's vilified.
And isn't there like a green stone that they have to get, right, to send them back into the underworld?
Yeah.
Or some sort. I don't know if it was green. It might just be yellow like that, actually. But
I think it was green, and then they're just making it glow in the commercial. Oh yeah, maybe it was yellow. I forget. It was lit up. No, it lights up.
Green.
It lights up as the thing. Kurt, you were talking about the fear of green, though. Can you elaborate more here on like what do you mean like synthetics? This is where it comes up. I feel like monsters, right?
So yeah, monsters for sure. Like the Hulk is green. We mentioned that. Which
Right.
gamma radiation, I don't know if it's ever really done anything mechanically to actually make anything related to that green. But
Beast Boy in season 6 of Teen Titans. Just kidding.
yeah, but green outside of nature, if we see it literally embodied in anything else, it seems that's when our brains seem like they associate it with just everything either weird or sometimes dangerous. Because if a person is green, they're obviously not well. If they're not well, then they just have a lot of makeup on. So normally, if green is not seen in the natural world, I think it sends off certain alarms in our instinctual sorts of self, So yeah,
Blue Man definitely for that poor guy. Careful with that much colloidal metal. That's
yeah, and like it's weird because like we all discussed how we seem to be kind of associating with death. Well, I think sometimes in aliens are depicted as green as well, which is kind of strange. But if our weird association with death, it isn't rationally justified, but it's probably because of I don't know. What is the natural thing that makes people typically turn green? Not just sickness. Like if you get like gangrene, does that make you green? I don't know.
Yeah, that's no good. Don't get gangrene. Yeah.
But it's normally pretty bad. But when people are normally dying, they turn gray, not normally green. I'm pretty sure. I haven't seen many corpses out there.
I really don't want to put I'm gonna just pull this off the screen for a second before I look at pictures of gangrene.
Oh yeah,
that could always suck. Oh, gangrene. That's funny. See, even just I typed it wrong, it's gonna come up with pictures of a band. Gangrene.
Try to make anybody.
Oh yeah, no, you don't. Never mind. Okay, so on to Pretty Ladies, because at this point, Hillary Clinton looks amazing compared to what I just looked at. But the Hella Runes. So there's a connection with the witches being green, and it seems to go back. We were talking about the Hella Runes, like women that turn green in nature. But yeah, have you seen the Hella Runes? I kind of went into this a minute. But the seers, right? You see the seers, or the women who were like mystical and could do all that really well, right? Oh, come back, Hella Runes. Where'd you go? Where is she? Boom. Yeah, come on. I know you're there in Wiki. I don't want us to know. Oh, there we go. Sure. Halirudas, right? So and I talked about this the other day, the Gothic 6th century work talking about the mothers of the Huns who had intercourse and even orgies with the devil and demons. Okay, and so that's how come Tartars exist. They don't actually call them Huns; they call them Tartarians. They call them Tartars. Were created by the breeding of the witches, right? But the green witch is a thing too. So in nature, you go out into the woods, right, and that's where the witch is all the time, according to these stories. So there's an association with her being in and of nature. And so is nature itself frightening? Is that part of what our fear of green is that we're civilized and so terrified of our primal self?
Mother Nature will murder us real quick. It doesn't take much to die out in nature, right? So there's always a fear of not being able to tame it. Yeah. Yeah, and then the Gorgons, right? Aren't the Gorgons they're pretty much have a lot of green because the green snakes in their hair and stuff, right? They're kind of come from the witch. I believe the Gorgons are all just like a
dude, good point. Ooh.
Yeah, no, elaborate, Jordan. What are you thinking? I can tell you're feeling feelings.
Oh no, that's just that connection is just wild. I like that one. That's good. That's wild.
It's because you're hot for Twi'leks too. You know it. I know it. We all love Twi'leks. Twi'leks are hot to me.
Oh, you know what? No, never. Actually, no.
Really? You know why? You know why?
No.
I think my problem is Santa Cruz. If it wasn't for all the dreadlock girls, and I'm doing a moderate search, okay, yeah. If it weren't for the fact that I was raised in Santa Cruz, where this is normal, I probably wouldn't think slug heads was like a cool thing. But clearly, slugs And this is the best like UCSC slugs reference I think they could have done.
Is that
Our
sorry,
mascot slug.
okay?
No, yeah.
Is that your thing, Xirtus? Girls with dreadlocks?
I don't know. I like every color being, and if they have slug heads, it's all about the personality. That's all I'm saying. Twi'leks are cool.
All right. Ask you that another time because that did not answer my question.
But I still could run for office, so that's okay. Seeress is a woman said to have the ability to foretell the future events and perform sorcery. And there's a whole thing with them wearing like green cloaks, especially. And there's a thing with Ireland too. Ireland is called Erin and refers to green itself, emerald. Erin. Let's see, Erin, because it's the green. The emerald's associated with it, but also just green in general. So I mean, it means green. How do you have a place that means green that's populated by red-headed people? I mean, it just seems like that connects to your Santa Claus thing as well.
Yeah. Yeah, and then the witches are green, but the devil is red, and Dracula is red, but the other monsters are green, right? That's probably a connection in there.
Oh, shit. There's a disease. It's called hypochromic anemia, and apparently it only affects virgins, and it makes them green. Or virgins, it makes them green.
Kurt, what? Are you afraid of the dark? What? What? Hyperchrome. What? Okay. Hypochromic anemia is a generic type of anemia in which the red blood cells are paler than normal. What the heck? And so this happens to virgins?
Well, read down in the historical
15 here. Yeah, you want to read it? Or
yeah.
And 1554 German physician Johannes Lange described a condition which he called the disease of virgins because it was peculiar to virgins. The symptoms were wide-ranging, including an appearance which was pale as if bloodless, and aversion to food, especially meat, difficulty in breathing, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it's
wow.
Yeah. But
wow, he prescribed that those affected should live with men and copulate. If they conceive, they shall recover. Oh my God. The green sickness in English medical test. The green sickness, a form of jaundice. there you go. Okay, jaundice. Yeah, because people think of yellow, but there's stuff, definitely green. However, Lang shifted, and I'm going with Lang. I don't know. Lange. I think we're pronouncing too many letters. Shifted the cause. These Europeans, I just want to cheat at Scrabble. The digestive errors from the patient remaining a virgin despite being the age of marriage. The name chlorosis was coined in 1615 by Montpellier, I guess, professor of medicine Jean Verondal, from the ancient Greek word chloros, meaning greenish yellow, and pale green, pale, pallid, or fresh. Both Lang and Verondal claimed Hippocrates as a reference, but their list of symptoms do not match that in Hippocrates' Disease of Virgins, a treatise that was translated into Latin in the 1520s and thus became available in modern Europe. The Disease of Virgins, what the... I mean, this is just, we're so close to Halloween.
Yeah. And it ties in, right? There's another like life, death, fertility kind of connection. Right?
Yeah. I should be careful. Virgin green. I'm going to go ahead and remove the window just in case. You never know what the virgin green. Virgin green olive oil. That worked out. And then the Virgin Green Fund. That's safe. Okay. So that's not so bad. But there's something to that. I don't know. But the witches, because the witches, they're living in the green. Are they green? What's the deal with the...
And verde, right, is like the ver sound. Virgin, verde, right?
Verde.
So there might be some sort of connection with green with just
verde. Fresh, virgin. Virgin olive oil. Verde olive oil. Acete. Yeah. Okay, there's something to this. I think you're on to something with that. Green witches, though, blue Celts. So when we got to the point of seeing Celts, they're covering themselves in blue. Is there a painting? Let me see a painting. I'm scared. Blue Celt skin. There you go. I think I'll get away with this one. So, you get to England or wherever, and in the islands, all these people are painted colors, like they're blue or green. It seems like we're seeing a lot of blue, but that's because what is it? The 4th to 6th century translated from the 1600s, and it gets pretty convoluted, like the confusion between letters, let alone the confusion between colors. But so these are the 16th century drawings to represent what the 6th century books are referring to with the Celts. And the Celts are not just covered in tattoos, you've got them wearing all kinds of inks, right? So there's that.
Wasn't there like blue or green people that were in
So Bernie.
somewhere in the Americas? Yo.
Okay. Blue or green people. When you say blue or green people, the first thing that comes to mind is still just going to be the Smurf guy who ate metal. But which blue people are you talking about?
I think this is them, right? They're from the Americas, right? These people that had blue skin.
Was that the blue guy that was like a politician in Montana or someone else?
This is the dude who didn't have proper colloidal metals. And so he drank silver and he turned blue. And it was on like TV to make people like not get into colloidal metals to keep it like weird.
Yeah, he was the guy that drank diatomic instead, which is oxidized metal instead of monoatomic. So yeah, see the blue diatomic, that's when the metal, instead of being a single atom monoatomic, it bonds with an oxygen in the electrolysis process, thus becoming diatomic and becomes highly toxic.
Is that what happens to copper?
The copper, gold, silver, any of the metals. I've done this transmutation to all of them. And then this pure white is the monoatomic single atom state that...
Bro, Mystic Food, please take a meme of that, of just Bernie holding that jar of like white like fluid, because it definitely doesn't look like colloidal gold. That's what it doesn't look like, I'll tell you. But hey, you know what? Thoughts on green and blue, Bernie? Do you have any thoughts on green and blue?
Well, right, like all the legends of the, especially in East India and whatnot, of the demigods that were blue, that could fly, that lived hundreds or if not thousands of years. Apparently they could levitate, do telekinesis, and the story goes it was monoatomic gold that did that to them. But once again, if you're turning blue, you're diatomic and you're poisoning yourself. So
but did you see this on Egyptian blue? So this is what all the Egyptian blue was made of, and it was all made of copper. So it was all green. And so up until the 1600s, most of the pictures that we think of as blue were really green. And there's even pictures of green Shiva, green Rama, green Krishna, green Krishna. How about that? There's examples of if you can find the oldest, it's hard to find the green oldest. But there are green Rama, maybe. I'll do Rama. It should be Vishnu. How about that? Something. There you go. You start to find like the original versions are all this green material and the paintings were green, but the paintings are almost all gone. But you have like really prototypical paintings from the 6th century that refer to this as well. And then you have the Chinese with jade, right? So the jade, China is more valuable than gold. Everyone had to wear these dog collars around their necks. And if you died, your buddy would pull it off and it would be this whole other movie. But they had the dragon set. Where's the cool like little statues? My dad has this one from ancient China that's like this little tall Anunnaki guy made out of jade. So jade, this stone that's basically glass. What do you think about jade?
There's some crazy properties to it, like all the different gemstones, minerals, and metals. The more I dive deeper into the ancient alchemy and science and writings, the more, as well as metaphysics, the more it comes out that an esoteric knowledge that it was this advanced science. And like the alchemists' philosophy is that these elements, these crystals, they're all alive. They all have their own energy, their own life force and spirits to them. So who knows, right? It's fascinating.
Yeah.
Kurt, do you have any thoughts on stones?
I love stones. They're cool, and I probably could go down a rabbit hole. I'll probably get going for tonight, so I appreciate you.
Oh, is it late? Yeah, it is late for you, I guess. It's like an hour later. All right, well, Kurt, don't worry about it. If you're exhausted, you don't have to like keep pushing into what the values of gems are in geology. That's okay.
No, you're good. I'll do something good on that note, though.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Bye, Kurt.
All right, brother. Have a good
See
one.
you guys
Thank you.
soon, bro. Yeah.
Have a
Hey
good
guys,
night.
make sure you get some American Time Machines music. I got the link in the chat or in the description.
Sure.
Thanks, yeah.
Thanks, brother. Good night.
Good to meet you.
Good to meet you too.
In terms of, let's see, green color symbology, psychology of green, balance in nature, love is evergreen, physical effects, your body in the presence of green, your pituitary gland is stimulated, your muscles are more relaxed, and your blood and histamine levels increase, which leads to a decrease in allergy symptoms and dilated blood vessels, aiding in smoother muscle contraction. In short, green is calming, stress relieving, and a bit paradoxically invigorating. It's been shown to improve reading ability and creativity.
Well, and plants, the photosynthesis happens in that spectrum of green light wave. So it's like, is that the absorbable, usable life energy wave of light?
There, that's interesting. Yeah, we did this a bit, but let's go there. Par density spectrum, proactive radiation par density spectrum, and then you can see, between 5 to 550, almost not quite 600, but is in this
green's pretty much right in the middle. So it's like, is that our third dimensional, like, manifesting energy reality? And then you get to the UV ultraviolet, and apparently that's the spectrum that you can start seeing auras and the orgone energy and whatnot. And then if you go to the infrared, there's all the legends of like the demons being visible and existing in that infrared hot spectrum energy. And green's literally right in the middle. And they say it's yellow and blue that gives you green, but really is it purple and red that provide that green?
Yeah, interesting.
It's a good question. I mean, the idea that green is either and I've always said blue, because blue is a very strange color that masks out. If you think how big blue is and how it goes into ultraviolet, blue is supposedly masking out a lot of the infragreen or whatever we're calling this, because the spectrum is just one blue. The fact that you can see a gradient of green here, but you have a difficulty seeing the change in blue, shows you how much blue is just taking up is absorbing information. So when you look at the sky and you see a blue sky instead of all the other colors in the sky, that's because blue is the censorship bar across your vision. And it's interesting because that didn't exist up until recently, right? We were showing blue didn't exist. I'll just remind, in the past, people saw less color. I mean, there are people that have, even today, more cones and can see more colors than most humans can see. But the colors that were available to you were between the 600 and 670 range mostly, and so colorblind people for the most part are seeing in this spectrum as well. But it was very common at one point. So Homer's Odyssey doesn't talk about blue. It talks about wine-colored seas, honey-colored skies, no blue. You know what I mean? Blue is just not a thing on the menu for people up until a certain point when, and Blavatsky talks about this, Bluebird, the idea that there's a change, and all of a sudden we're seeing blue because of the electromagnetic or whatever kind of aura change and shift. And that's what's blinding us to what's really out there, what's beyond that blue beam.
Yeah, very interesting.
Oh, are you a muted, boy? I cannot hear you.
Me?
No, is Bernie? What were you saying?
So that most of the auroras are green in color when you see them, or at least from what I've seen, majority of the time it's green in the skies where I live.
Yep, absolutely.
Man, I can never spell it right. Aurora borealis. And then I get confused with the serpent eating its own tail, Ouroboros. It's just never fair.
Yeah, because they look like it. A lot of times it looks like a large snake eating its own tail.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that is an interesting thing in and of
Giant
itself.
plasma dragon in the sky.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine, though, you don't have blue, and then this is what you get to see all the time, basically. Plus more, because there's yellow, pinks, and all these different colors. And this is what the sky could and should be looking like all the time, everywhere. Except we're seeing just this crazy, and far weirder. This is just because of, if blue wasn't here, only imagine.
And this is associated with the North again, right? With the North Pole, these elves, getting closer to a possible entrance into the underworld. The things we spoke about before, there's a lot of connections. There's always something that's connecting these things to each other, in the same kind of bigger picture.
Right. Green witches, Celts, Jade, Frankenstein monster. Okay, Frankenstein monster.
And I just thought of Groot too when we were looking up something.
Oh,
That
yeah,
was
Groot.
something to mention. It's another nature character, you know.
Yeah, he looks a lot like Green Man. He's got the
Yeah.
same that kind of the head even being the
Yeah.
broken. Mary Shelley though, I had Mary Shelley open here? She's all the way over here. Let me pull this over there then. Boom.
Yeah. So we were gonna go a little bit into Mary Shelley, her husband, and also you mentioned her father, right? Was it her father, Andreas?
Yeah, what's to say? Father is he was a scientist and a political philosopher, William Goodwin, who's very
Yeah.
interesting. He was a utilitarian, and he wrote some interesting books. He was a British radical, and so, but the thing, and an anarchist. But he talked about the Slavs, the Tartars. He did a bunch of history stuff and about the English Civil War, into Stoicism, and was a major influence on Shelley. And so a lot of the work that Shelley did, like, it wouldn't have been possible if she hadn't been raised by Goodwin, of course.
Yeah, so it seems like she was introduced to a lot of history, mythology, all this stuff, and her understanding of Prometheus, and that's this is the modern Prometheus, is this Frankenstein story, since Prometheus made mankind, right? The Dr. Frankenstein is animating this pieces of human that are put back together to make a somewhat type of human or whatever, but a monster. And even if you look in like Black's Law Dictionary, I believe, when you look up human, it says see monster, and then as a definition for monster.
For which one?
We're kind of Prometheus's monsters. And even in the movie Prometheus, if you look up Black's Law Dictionary, I believe it's older versions of Black Law's Dictionary. This has been years too since I've
I look at Prometheus monster, or what? What do I look up?
No, if you look up human in Black's Law Dictionary, it'll say to see monster. It says a being that is of a hue, and that's just like color, right? A colored being, a humanoid or something like that. But I think this is an old version. I don't know if it's
monster definition: a prodigious birth, a human birth or offspring not having the shape of mankind, which cannot be heir to any land, albeit it be brought forth in marriage. Wow.
Yeah, see, interesting, right? So there's another like human monster connection, and her associating the Prometheus story by writing this Frankenstein story and Frankenstein's monster, kind of showing us symbolically, at least, that that's what we are, is we're the monsters of Prometheus. And then in the movie Prometheus, I believe it's Hal. I'm not very savvy with any of these newer movies or anything, but is that Hal from 2001 Space Odyssey that is the doctor that's making the aliens or whatever?
Oh, right, Prometheus. It's not quite, but basically, is his name Hal?
I think that was Hal, as far as
let's see. I think his name might have been, I don't know, Prometheus, Hal, no, AI. He had another name, David. His name is David.
Oh, David.
But that's still good, right? Because
yeah. So yeah, anyways, this David character is like the bad scientist kind of thing, right? And that's associated with, oh wait,
I'm afraid I can't let you do that, Dave. Wait, is somebody...
Oh, you cut him off.
I was just joking. I'm a mad scientist.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Right.
This is perfect.
So Hal says, "I'm afraid I can't let you do that, Dave." And then in Prometheus, his name is David, right? So it's like,
okay.
So he's become Hal is the son, it's the offspring of Dave and Hal's star child. Is the idea?
Okay, interesting.
Because Dave becomes a star child when he touches the monolith, right?
Okay, so it is associated, right? It's tied into that.
Yeah. What about this? On the way, who could also mean bird from what I was reading earlier, which connect to earlier bird demon back in the day, Sumeria. Ancient Mysteries on YouTube talks about this. Yes. Bird monster, Sumeria. I don't know the name, but obviously Thunderbird comes to mind. Anzu, that's right, Anzu. or the zoo, a lesser deity monster. Pretty exciting though. Look at that guy, right? And close enough to bipedal, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of Garuda in the Indian pantheon. That was Garuda is basically the eagle on the back of the dollar bill.
Garuda, my bad.
Yes, if you look at those, see the picture? That's like the eagle on the back of our dollar bill.
Yep.
They got it from Garuda, and that's Vishnu's mount. He flies on the back of Garuda.
That makes sense. The story of the Dogon, they got the 411 from a sea-like person. Why it shows why the Pope wears that same hat. I heard. Yeah, that's the fish hat, right? And then we just looked at the Mithra cult, the Pope and the Mithra cult, because the hat has a lot to do. The Mithra cult had an association with the fish. They're going to show us the thing. They just want to hide the picture there. But the Roman mystery cult, they worship the Enki as well.
Yeah, so that ties into EA. Yeah, Enki is EA, and also Capricorn.
Okay.
So that ties back to the creature of the Black Lagoon and this, fish creature, and it's the Makara in Indian pantheon. So that's the mount of a lot of these ocean and river gods. The Makara. Right.
Yeah, we talked a bit about the Makara, but remind us, it's this fish monster thing. What is the deal? Like demon monster.
So this is the mount of a lot of gods. Well, specifically Varuna, and in Varuna's children, which are these females, they represent the riverways and all that stuff. So the Ganges is the goddess Ganja, and she rides the Makara. So any of these water gods in the Hindu pantheon, they ride this Makara. That's their mount, just like Garuda's the mount for Vishnu. And
Ganja.
Yeah. So they're also on the temples. They are at the entrances, and they make fountains out of them, and water comes out of their mouth. But they're like, you have to pass them in any entrance to these temples, or at least some of the older ones. You have to pass by these makaras, and a lot of the goddesses and gods would wear earrings that had a makara, that you have to go through the makara to be able to tell someone something. So it's like it's a gateway guy. Yeah, there's a goat
in the mouth.
Yeah, and it's this chimera character that so is Capricorn. It's a chimera. It's not one animal. It's at least two, and can be also depicted as a human too in some cases. The Capricorn.
Wow.
And then it connects to Sobek, and Sobek is in the Egyptian pantheon, and it's the crocodile.
Right. Yeah. So what's the deal with the crocodile god? Because, in front of the Rosicrucian temple, right, they have Sobek, right?
Yeah. So Sobek is the god that the Nile comes from. Sobek, supposedly. He's this large, giant green crocodile god that sweated the Nile. And so it has a long story to Sobek, but Sobek is been what do you call it when you morph it with other gods? It's been morphed with Horus and Ra and Set and all of them. Like they basically said that this is a version of them is this crocodile god. And that they used to keep them as pets, and they would feed this huge fat one. There's Crocodilopolis. They have a whole area, Crocodilopolis, that was dedicated to them, and huge temple, and they worshipped it.
Wow. Yeah,
I remember hearing something about that crocodile god, and that they're the missing Egyptian labyrinth that's supposedly under the Giza plateau is ruled by that crocodile god or something.
Yeah, it definitely could be. It's been a while since I looked into all the details of Sobek, but that's what I remember, is that there was a Crocodilopolis. I mean, he was worshipped all throughout, but especially in one area. And it's one of the old.
Go deep on the labyrinth, though, because do people know about this much? I mean, the idea that there's a labyrinth. What is the deal?
Yeah, like it's been LiDAR'd, and that literally they've proven and have the 3D rendering of this giant. I think it's like 3 megalithic stories below the entire Giza plateau, but I don't think they've released it officially. Like there's a couple like very, very small mentions of it in the media a few years back or something like that. And I think they were supposed to do like a big public reveal of it. And then it's been completely silenced and hushed up ever since.
Wow. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, like
and you can see,
labyrinth.
Look at the swastikas around the labyrinth right there too. The interconnectivity of them, right?
Interesting.
Yeah,
and I would say that connects back if there is a crocodile connection to it. It's the first I've heard of that, but I never even heard of any of this labyrinth or any of that. So it'd be interesting to find out if the crocodile is associated, and that would connect into like Pan and Pan's labyrinth, and Pan, of course, is connected to Capricorn.
Dude, crocodile pets in the sewers.
Yeah.
The all-American crocodile pet.
So look up Inky on Wikipedia. I think it'll show that it is the Dogon, the EA, and the Capricorn. It's all the same thing.
I'm so glad.
Oh, sorry, Enki. Sorry.
I know. I mean, I'm so glad that even though I knew better, I was like, what happens if I type Enki and it brings up the little like band cartoon Sambo-esque character that destroyed Looney Tunes Chuck. Yeah. Okay. I feel
and what is that? She has like a little crocodile with her or something, or turtle. What is that?
Yeah, it looks kind of like a turtle. Well, maybe it's a crocodile. It's definitely some sort of lizard thing. Maybe it's a croc. Yeah, it looks like a crocodile.
It could be baby croc.
Wow.
That's pretty wild, dude. I don't know. I can't believe the things
weird.
they get away with. Okay, but Enki, who is not a Looney Tunes character yet, but there's still time.
So what is the Wikipedia page? I think it'll tell you what gods it's associated with.
Yeah, let's see here. Enki is, gosh, Wikipedia these days. Enki. Sumerian god of water, crafts, creation, and one of the Anunnaki. He was later known as A or A. Or Ea or A. Akkadian, Assyrian, Babylonian religion is identified by some scholars with Ea or Ai. Come on, that's hilarious. With Canaanite religion, the name was rendered Eos in Greek sources, Damascus. He was originally the patron god of the city of Eridu, but later the influence of his cult spread throughout Mesopotamia to the Canaanites, Hittites, Syrians. He was associated with the southern band of constellations called the Stars of Ea, but he was also with the constellation As-Iku, the field square of Pegasus. Beginning around the 2nd millennium BC, he was sometimes referred occasionally by writing by numeric ideogram for 40. Interesting. Shakespeare John Dee thing there. Occasionally referred to as his sacred number. The planet Mercury associated with the Babylonian Nabu, the son of Marduk, was in his Sumerian times identified with Enki. Okay, so the messenger, Mercury, Lucifer. Many myths about Enki, Venus, Phosphore, have been collected from various sites stretching from southern Iraq to the Levantine coast. He is mentioned in the earliest extent cuneiform inscriptions throughout the region and was prominent from the 3rd millennium down to the Hellenistic period. Greek equivalent Poseidon and Prometheus.
And then the goatfish. See the symbol if you go back?
Yeah, let's see here. Oh, where'd it go? Enki. The goatfish.
So if you go down to the symbol, well, it says it on there. It's written. It says the symbol is the goatfish. And
there's also goats, though, right? Yeah.
Chimera, right? And I believe it says that it's related to the Dogon somewhere in there. But yeah, see right there the symbol.
Goatfish, chimera. There we go.
Yeah.
Interesting. And if you type goatfish, oh no, sea goat. Yeah, that works. So sea goat, legendary aquatic animal described as a creature that is half goat and half fish. Constellation Capricorn, Enki. Greek interpretations belongs to the constellation Almathea, the goat that raised Zeus. Okay. In Jewish tradition, the story goes that the creature of the sea must offer themselves to the monster Leviathan. In another, a sailor encountered a sea goat while far at sea. On its horns was carved the sentence translated as, "I am a little sea animal, yet I traverse 300 parasangs to offer myself as food to the Leviathan." Whoa.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's an obvious connection to Pan, and it's being a chimera, and these aquatic representations that they have with the Pope and stuff like that. And Christ is supposedly, all these Christ characters that show up are December 21st, which is Capricorn, and then they say the vicar of Christ is the Pope, and that's why they would wear that, fish type Dogon hat.
Pope fish hat. Let's see if I just type that. Will that work? Yeah, there's some, and you can see the examples of the fish mouth Mitra, like Babylonian Assyrian outfit, where he's wearing a full fish, not just the head of the fish. He's got his whole tails and everything, which I imagine that's got to smell. So I can get why he stopped doing that. But
yeah, so this is it connects into the crocodile, the Makara, them being chimera. The crocodile god, he's actually half human, half crocodile. Right, they can be on water and land, these creatures. That's why the chimera, the Makara thing, isn't just a water creature. It also has feet and has different animal parts that it's made out of, that it can go from the ocean depths to the top of the mountain. It can traverse through this thing. That's why Mercury's associated with it, and Mercury's lunar mansion is in Capricorn. It's the 21st or 22nd lunar mansion.
And the association again with Ramses the second to what's his name? Sarah. What's it?
Makara?
God. No, the crocodile god.
Yeah, Sobek.
Sorry, Sobek. Right. Yeah. Sobek is one of the names for Ramoses was associated with Sobek Ra, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure if there was a connection between Ramses II. The connection with Ramses II was Ozymandias, and that was connected to Mary Shelley's husband's poem of Ozymandias.
To answer the question of Miss Mu Nagasaki, 69 in Gematria means pie or milk. There's a couple of Chick-fil-A was in there too. I like those. And gamma, and to define. So there you
go. Nice.
Nice.
It's
fascinating stuff. Because now that we're getting to the level of the CRISPR technology, gene editing, the cloning, all of that, essentially the technology of God, are we back to this moment of the Tower of Babel, and where we or whatever humanoid group was in charge or in power before the last reset or a couple of resets back, did they also get to that point where it's like it's not a cartoon image or like fictional images, these possible creatures were actually running around, or humanoids, whatever, running around?
Yeah, and a lot of the old mythologies and stuff are talking about these weird mix. Ancient Aliens goes into it and all that stuff, like we were doing weird mixtures and trying to blend things until we came up with something that was I guess more suitable, that could last longer on Earth in the physical realm. And so maybe that's what was happening in the past. I mean, that's kind of the story of Prometheus, is they made, he was forming us, and then Athena, I believe Athena in the story, comes in and she provides this ability of unveiling ourselves over time. And it's symbolized by a butterfly that she puts in our head, right? And she, of course, comes out of her father, Zeus, through the head, through the middle of the head, explodes out of his head because he ate her, right? So I think there's some interesting correlations, connections there with over time unraveling some of these mysteries and perfecting ourselves, and maybe moving from being the monster that's inside, the shadow side of ourselves, right? And the beastly or form that dies into something that is longer lasting and has more life and more love and stuff like that, you know.
There's
So-
interesting connections between the Green Man and Woden, the one eye, and we went into this the other day about the idea of Woden as the one eye being connected to the eye of Hamza, the evil eye, right? Because there's an entire offensive strategy there, and then the hand of Mary being, to protect, or the hand of the daughter of Muhammad, right? So it depends on how they want to present the hand to protect, but there's that idea of the hand. And this again, where it used to be green, but now they're always blue, right? Like you almost always see the blue hand of not always. I mean, there are other ones, but blue seems to be coming up more often than green now. Although green is the thing. Green is the color for Islam too. That's another thing that connects Islam and green.
Good point.
Green in Islam, there's like 13 reasons to the importance of green, and the 13 importance of green described as a good color in Islam, a theme color of the Quran, the Prophet's favorite color, symbolizing life, symbol of Islam, has a special place in Islamic history, right? Because there's a lot of the flags and all the culture. As suggestion to preserve nature, the color of the dwellers of paradise wear. Green is life. Green is the favor from Allah, so being in favor. Greenery gives life. So the idea of in the fall, when you're losing water and things start to lose their green, and the spring comes and the green comes back, and all the plants are flushed with green. The Prophet gave the Prophet's grave has green color, and to calm and refresh the mind. And greenery gives life to Muslims. But there's more in terms of just the hats worn, the flags, like we talked about.
I'm gonna be right back. Sorry, I'll be right back. All right.
No worries. 17th century Mughal painting of Al-Qadir. You'll see he's riding a fish even. So the connection's there. But yeah, all the flags. I mean, Bernie, do you have any thoughts on? You seem like you're thinking this too.
It's interesting that it's the green and why it's the holy color, but
and red again.
Flags through the Middle East have the green in it, right? With the Islam, but been too long since I took my was in school post-secondary and took religious studies. I'm like trying to think and just having a blank on it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's amazing though. You have the green guard, green. And I guess if we go into it, we can say they're reclining on the green cushions and the rich carpets of beauty in the surah. Upon them will be green garments of fine silk and heavy brocade, and they will be adorned with bracelets of silver, and their lords will give them drinks of pure water and holy, right? The green garments, because they're in paradise. The Al-Qadir literally means the green one, right? So the Al-Qadir is the green man, and he's a figure who traveled and met Moses. So, I mean, the green man meets Moses.
They took the natural green color as their royal or worship color, opposed to Europeans that were all purple.
Right? Yeah, because of the snails of the sea. So the land power versus the sea power. Purple,
makes
snails,
sense.
Royal. You know this whole thing, right? With
Yeah, the tire snail. Royal tire purple, is it?
Snails royal. Show people. Come on, internet. Don't fail me now. Yeah, I mean, so now they can just synthetically do it, but this is how they were Tartarian, purple, right? I think that's the way to go with that. Sucks to be a snail, in a lot of ways. But yeah, now they can synthetically do it, so purple's not a big deal. But green also from emerald, and like in the Voynich manuscript, the kinds of green that they use are these materials from emeralds that are so they're so durable that you can still look at the parchments, right? The vacuum, because you couldn't do that if it was 10 years old, if it was written in organic materials like from simple paints, etc. Right? So, but yeah, so we did the Islamic flags. Green is the banner. There was a thing here somewhere. Islamic green is actually the name of a color, which is hex 00900000. I mean, numerologists abound. Go right ahead. But then we, and in giant, it's not just, don't worry, it's not just red. I mean, it's not just green, it's red too. Like there are the association there abound. And then just the fact that the flag of Iran, the flag of Italy, the connections to Mexico and Latin America, this idea that Turan is the Latin Empire, that everyone, the people remember the security guards that were drafted from the neighboring countries. It'd be like if America was remembered by the Canadian flag in 1,000 years, which is fine. I'm for it. But green and Arab. Okay. Is Islam still the green religion? Thanks, guys. So then there's and we did the Egyptian blue, but this is an example of some Egyptian blue, just to remind people, like in terms of hue. That's not a blue; it's a green, right? Yeah. Hones, Silverman, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Okay. Yeah, so I mean, obviously there's a tie-in with the green immediately. I believe it's some sort of I don't know if it was a vapor. Do you guys remember with Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, or was it a liquid? I remember him like drinking some sort of liquid and then turning into this crazy guy. Right?
Yeah, I think it's a potion. My dad told me as a kid, and I haven't really verified this yet, but that the story Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde was based on a minister. There was a religious minister who by night was like a sexual deviant who did drugs and had parties and listened to jazz. You know what I mean? But so they got this like two-sided thing, because when he got arrested, it was a shock to the society that he had a closeted life, which could have had bisexuality and everything else. Probably how he got arrested, because homosexuality was illegal at the time, more than it was to drink arsenic. Actually, you could probably do that and no one would care in certain slums of London. But yeah, so the idea that he turned green, kind of a typical Flash comic book.
Yeah, and I think this is like, Monster Energy drink and stuff like that, because monsters are green, but it's also kind of a play on that. These things get embedded over time and used because they, remember it from a childhood story or something like that. But I thought there was a couple different interesting correlations with Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, obviously with like Incredible Hulk and what we were seeing with Prometheus, right? There's a scientist, this mad scientist kind of, Frankenstein, and another thing being created, a monster side, a shadow side, right? A death of the one character and a birth of the other. So death, rebirth, sort of stuff over again in this kind of symbology that is in the story. But also, if you look up the Wikipedia, the publishing date is very close to the publishing date of Frankenstein. As far as like the month and the day, right? So I believe it's January 5th that it was published.
Pull this over here. 1818, 1886, but the date itself, January 5th.
January 5th. And then the other one's like the 11th or something.
January. Doesn't tell me when it was first published. Novel Frankenstein. Okay, there we go. Okay. January 1st. Okay.
January 1st. Yeah. And then I believe another one of the stories by her husband was maybe like the 6th or something, or the 11th.
Yeah, Percy Bush Shelley. Like, interesting, right? This character, very compared to Mary Shelley. No offense, Mary Shelley. I'm just saying you did well for yourself. Look. Good job, Mary Shelley. You got with Percy Bush.
She wasn't looking too merry.
Yeah, she looks more like Marshall.
I was thinking that, but I didn't say it.
He looks like Mary. Right?
I knew a girl named Percy. It could work, but yeah, radical in his poetry, and no problem living how you want to live. Like, God bless America. I'm just saying, or Britain or whatever. I'm just saying, like, yeah, it's probable that people were living their own lifestyles privately at the time, and it's interesting. Yeah.
Very interesting.
A dead name. Shelley did not achieve fame during his lifetime, but did write a bunch of interesting books. The Ode to the West Wind, Ozymandias, I think is the one you were talking about, right?
Yeah, and then there's a few other. You had like the Mask of Anarchy, which kind of relates to the movie The Mask, right? Not that the story does,
Green
but
Mask.
just
Yeah.
the fact that he's referencing to the mask, right? And that's what that thing is, the Mask of Loki. It's kind of like you're hiding yourself, you're letting the animal side come out, right? And you become this Joker, right? Like the Joker, and why he has green hair. And
There it is, the mask. Yeah, the mask is interesting. I mean, what's the actual mask look like again? It kind of looks like the Green Man. Let me see if I can find a terrifying kind of thing here.
And it's
right?
the Mask of Loki, right? The trickster.
Right.
And,
Loki
and
and
Loki
green.
and green, yeah, being all dressed in green always, right?
Full green, full time. Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of this connection to kind of tricksters. Leprechauns are tricksters. Elves are known to be kind of tricksters and hiding and doing stuff. Like we just looked at that elf shot thing, right? Where they're pulling this off. People see these DMT elves, right? And they seem to be able to interact with the mainframe of the Matrix and kind of mess with people. And maybe behind things like the Mandela effect, just like they think that CERN is behind things with the Mandela effect. And, what kind of powers do these things have? All the mythological stories and stuff of them talk about them being able to fashion like the most interesting items and shoes, and that's not just, the elves by themselves. They've all been kind of convoluted and mixed into the story of gnomes, elves, leprechauns. They're all basically of the same variety. There's just little spin-offs kind of, but there's they go in. Isn't there a story about the helping out a shoemaker that couldn't make these shoes in time or something, so they come at night and help put these shoes together?
Yeah, what's that deal? In the middle of the night while he's asleep and they cobble all of his shoes, the cobbler and the elves. Cobbler's elves. That's right. That's right.
Yeah. And
that's fun.
Yeah, so if you get into a lot of these different stories of these characters, you start finding that they're masters of manipulating nature and creating things, right? So there's interesting association there that kind of links these different things together. They're like the alchemists behind the scenes of life. Like they can disappear and reappear, right? And like we were talking about with monsters and Santa Claus and all this, it seems, and the dragon, it seems like children can see these things like fairies and elves and all that stuff, but adults can't see them, or they don't show themselves to adults. It's safer to show themselves to children, right? And the monsters, right, hiding under the bed and all this stuff. So I just thought it's interesting. There's always these interesting correlations between all these things. And
dude, Jim Carrey, what the hell is his problem? He's got 3 different characters. I got the Mask, you got the Joker. What was the other one he did? The Grinch. Oh my god! So how many times over is Jim Carrey going to be the Green Man? I don't know. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, and a trickster.
I just had one thought with like the energy lightwave spectrums, and that like red green, right? The red green like vision, that if demons or entities are in this infrared, that when they materialize, they would probably come across in this green viewable in a green spectrum, would they not?
That'd be the part you'd see the refraction of light off of, because of the absorption.
Yeah, exactly, the refraction off of it.
So you see everything that wasn't them. Wow. So you'd see the green as a refraction. So in other words, it would be kind of a pink hue almost by that logic, right? I mean, so color complement.
Didn't they used to have night vision was in red, and then they said that the army or whatever was starting to see demons, and so they changed it to green.
Story of it.
And so they changed it to green.
Pink demons or the green demons from the other reality. That is the thing, because when you see, because all these, because have you seen this stuff like the hentai anime kind of scene? They're all about these pink, and I don't know what you call it, like the demons that are pink all the time. That is a thing that exists. to replace.
Yeah.
And it's the friendly, welcoming, but it's literally, if you look at a color wheel, it's the exact opposite. This is how color complements work. Just a little tip for anybody trying to do some painting. Take the opposite color across and they will complement each other perfectly, and that way you know what color I'm going to paint with. I mean, I don't know, like purple, then use yellow, right? If you're going to use that, then you use that, and it's going to come out looking perfect, right, every time. So
so the darker green is across from the red, and then that lighter green is across from the pink,
right? Yeah. Lighter, exactly. So red, yeah, exactly. So red demons, red devils, there you go. Very logical.
Interesting.
Yeah, right. If they're existing in that infrared spectrum, and then
red eye,
research I've seen and heard is like these blue cobalt lenses are able to see the aura energy and these other realms of life energy. So if they're existing in the infrared, the ultraviolet blue is on the UV, the opposite side of the spectrum. They cancel each other out. Green is right in the middle. That's what they'd appear as in our dimensional realm.
We should be wearing these all the time so we can have little filters to see what's going on, man. I'll tell you what.
And didn't Benjamin Franklin make those bifocals with all the different lenses on it, right, to see different color inks and stuff?
Absolutely.
I wonder if he knew anything about that stuff.
I think Isaac Newton also might have done it. And then I'm pretty sure there was like some guy working at CERN that put some of those colored lenses over a camera and then like published that he had seen entities portaling through it or something. If you guys ever heard of that story.
I have not.
That's awesome.
You got to find me the link to that one, though. That sounds really interesting. CERN. I mean, yeah, the idea of filtration to see stuff. I remember those infomercials with those yellow eagle eye sunglasses. And I was like, dude, grandpa, no. But they're very useful, I'm pretty sure. Monster Energy. Make sure you get yourself some Monster Energy.
And obviously you guys all know about that 666 thing, right? Supposedly. And
yeah, you guys see that?
Yeah. And I mean, obviously they're just doing it because, it's become so popular and everything. They're doing it on purpose.
Yeah.
I just thought it was interesting because it's, a green drink, or it's sold as a green drink, which obviously is a play on this green potion or witch's brew or whatever, right?
Spider-Man has to fight the Green Goblins. The red and blue are fighting green. Green is the ultimate attack for red and blue.
Yeah, another scientist. Did we already go into the Green Goblin? It's another scientist, right? And then he creates this, I think he's the one that breathes in the green stuff and then turns into the Green Goblin, right?
Mm-hmm. Vapors. Yeah. It's interesting how all the comic books started out like with research chemicals. I mean, we really got to get back to the Breaking Bad of Superman and everything. But did we do the Hulk? We talked about Shrek. We kind of talked about Beast Boy and the Hulk a bit. But I mean, it is interesting. Also, yeah, the scientist. That's true. And then we talk about She-Hulk though? Because opposed to Hulk, I mean, it is similar to the Princess Shrek. Yeah. She-Hulk is this character, and they've made it clear with her twerking that it's all about rejecting what society demands of us to be good, and just to be the most yourself you can be, whatever that means. And in this particular instance, it's being the highest paid. I don't want to go there. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Yep. Interesting correlation for sure.
Avenger Gamma. It says on the superhero card for her. Gamma associated again with 69 in green. Oh, Princess Shrek. Low key. Prometheus. Yeah, Prometheus is nuts. But Janice.
So yeah, the association that we've already made with the Capricorn, the Makara, the Sobek, and these publishing dates that they did. I think they publish it on these dates on purpose because they're symbolically trying to show that it reflects back to this Janus, or this, it's the gateway of going through dying and then coming back to life, this rebirth thing again. And like Jim Carrey, he's born in January, right? And he plays all these characters.
Oh, that's a Jim Carrey connection. Interesting.
Yeah, Jim Carrey's connected. I think they use Capricorns in a lot of these different roles on purpose because they know how to embody the energy of that, because astrologically they're born representations of it, right? So he is a Janus character. He's this, kind of Joker, little bit Two-Face kind of thing. But also in Batman Forever, which he would play the Riddler. Val Kilmer is also a Capricorn, and he plays Batman. And in that one, there's also Two-Face that's in that movie. And Batman has a girlfriend, but she is his psychiatrist, and talking about how he split his personalities when he was a kid into Bruce Wayne and Batman, right? So that's why there's all this like duality, Two-Face, Janus type symbology throughout the whole movie, and even putting the two Capricorns as and Robin is in this too, so his counterpart. So it's all this like splitting that they showed symbolically in it.
Earliest use of the question mark, the 8th century, as a lightning flash striking from right to left. The punctuation system of Elias Donatus, current through the early Middle Ages, used only simple dots at various heights. Interesting.
Yeah. So you'll.
And also the Janus, really quickly. I just want to show this because this is a German car, the Janus, and you can never tell whether it was coming or going. It was like it's a bicar.
Totally right through the front, eh?
I'm a fan. I love this thing because it's an Isetta also did this as well. You have the company started out by making scooters, and you can tell refrigerators, right? And so between the two, they came out with this. And I'm not kidding. That's the truth. That's a fact.
It almost looks like Mr. Bean's car.
Right. Yeah. He had a 3-wheeler though. The Isetta.
Okay.
Let me see if I can find that. There you go. The Isetta. You get like 90. You get 90 miles a gallon with one of these. And in my hometown, there's a guy who has a couple of them because you have to always get a second to fix the parts for things like that. But it's it's like 20 horsepower, 15 horsepower, or something like that. So it's the mileage is amazing, right? That's the thing.
That's awesome. Yeah, they had some interesting little vehicles, man.
Dude. Yeah. But yeah, Halloween and the association of Samhain with green, it seems like that's even the pumpkins grow with green on them. Everything, it comes from we're getting the idea of color complements again. And it just seems like that's the point.
Yeah, and I guess it kind of we didn't go into like Ozymandias and at least the word association of Wizard of Oz and the Emerald City, right?
Yeah, what is Ozymandias? Let's explain that though.
So Ozymandias, I asked you before we started the show if you've seen the Ballad of Buster Scruggs. I don't know if Bernard has watched it.
I have indeed. It's been a while, but that was actually a really good movie. It's made up of a bunch of short ones, is it, or was it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bunch of stories they pieced together. It's during the same time period, but different characters' lives during pretty much like the 1800s. And
I remember watching it for sure.
And it's all about death. Every single one of the stories.
That's Tom Waits.
Yes, it is Tom Waits. Yeah, he does a great job too. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I gotta watch this.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, it's one of my favorite movies, and one of the short stories is about this traveling entertainment guy. Well, there's two of them. One is the the boss, and he's not crippled, and then he has a crippled actor, right, or kind of a Shakespearean poet, kind of actor, and he sits him on a chair, and he sets up the stage and everything, and they go from like these little gold mining towns and stuff like that to entertain them and get money. And this guy just it says the same story over and over again because these people never heard it before, but he starts off with this poem by Percy Shelley, which is Ozymandias, right? And it's a very interesting poem, and then it connects into Ramses II. We were looking at Ramses II. That was his moniker. But if you read the poem, it's pretty short. It has to do with death. That's why they associate it
Do you want to read it, or if you can, if it's clear, legible? Is that legible enough for you?
Yeah, so it says, I met a traveler from an antique land who said 2 vast and trunkless legs of stone stand in the desert. Near them on the sand, half sunk, a shattered visage lies, whose frown and wrinkled lip and sneer of cold command tell that his sculptor well those passion red which yet survive, stamped on these lifeless things, the hands that mock them, and the heart that fed. And on the pedestal these words appear: my name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look on my works, ye mighty, and despair. No thing beside remains. Round the decay of the colossal wreck, boundless and bare, the lone and level sands stretch far away.
All
right.
I like that his name is Ozymandias because Oz 77, which means strength in Hebrew, and has the Kabbalistic value of 77, but is also associated with the Wizard of Oz, Emerald City, Emerald, Kansas City, but it has to do with emeralds because of vanadium. Vanadium is a mineral that resonates at it refracts at the 500 to 570 nanometer power density, hence the greenness. But we talked a bit about the association with rubies, because rubies are hitting at the higher 600s, 680s to 700 power density because they're thicker molecules, thicker minerals.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Emerald City, man, and the ruby slippers, even though they were silver in the book, I'll take it,
Yeah, interesting. Red and green again, right? And the green is like their goal. They're looking to get to this place of green to gather the things that they
also
think
running.
That they need.
They're running from a green witch, right? Of course, too. So.
Yeah, exactly.
The witch, it's as above, so below. There, the green is the good and the evil. It's just the extreme magic. It's like it's the awareness of that from the other side of the veil that you see.
Yeah. And supposedly the story is that they're looking for all these things that they think that they don't have. And isn't that what the wizard ends up telling them, is that, look, you guys had it all along. You don't need anything. Here's a certificate. Here's this. You pass the test. You getting here, you figuring it out, you moving past your fears and helping each other, right? And supposedly the Scarecrow had no brains, but he was like the smartest one.
Yeah,
right?
He's got to be like Thoth. You know what I mean? Emerald, and Thoth, and the Scarecrow.
Yeah,
I've seen this picture so many times. Is this like an actual real tablet that can be sourced or traced to somewhere?
Great question. I don't have the data on that.
Yeah, not so far, but that, when you look into it, people say, there's no proof of its age. The farthest they can trace it back is to when it was supposedly
even
found.
Just the item itself, like who has that item? Where is it? And
I think it's in England. I think it's
it is actually, hey?
I think so, as far as I remember.
Yeah, I don't have. Where's the thing at?
Love to get a look at that. Yeah, see, so there's two different ones. That one looked a little more legit, almost.
Yeah, but this one, the one that looks more legit, the one that's more legit is a replication. So that's why it looks more legit.
Oh, that is a replication. Okay.
Yeah, but the one that's supposed to be older, yeah, it's hard to be sure. I don't know where it is. Here we go. Pictures of it. Definitive guide. I don't know.
Right, like where. I'd love to find the source of that picture, and like if that is actually a giant green glass.
Yeah, we got to track it.
Very interesting. Sure. If it was actually emerald, I would believe that it is legitimate. If it's made out of glass, who knows how old it is? But like, just fascinating as F.
They have Libyan desert glass, so the idea of there were definitely glasses. They could have made it out of a glass, and that would have been fine. But if it's out of emerald, it seems like quite a bit of value to just scratch some symbols into, unless you really care about that symbol.
Yeah, it's a huge piece of emerald, but maybe they had the technology back then to melt even emerald into each other to make it or something, right? But I think the interesting thing is that what Thoth is talking about in those tablets is how he's discovered how to go into the underworld and come back, right? So there's this green association again with life, death, and rebirth, which is kind of why I had Xirtus, title this show the way it is, because it seems like all these things
Reconstruction, it says,
are about bringing things back to life, rebirth. Thoth is related to Mercury, and when you start looking at the symbology of these characters and everything, Hermes, Mercury, Thoth, Jesus, they're really kind of the same character. They're a character that's a messenger character that can move from all the different layers of Jacob's ladder. They can go to the underworld and come back again and rebirth. And, and it associates into all these characters we've spoken about, Prometheus and everything, about being able to create life or bring life back, right? Over and over again, these characters are tied in one way or another with this life, death, and rebirth.
They're able to essentially reincarnate themselves or others.
Or others like Lazarus, right? And, Prometheus is basically incarnating us, right? And we're kind of monsters in that sense. The gods didn't want us made. Prometheus did it without their allowing him to, right? Him and Athena kind of did it on the side. And so
Sorry, continue.
So this kind of a little bit ties into like John Dee and John Dee interacting with this character, which said she was Athena, right? She's the spear shaker, and then getting that using that name to create William Shakespeare, him and the others of the court, De Vere and Bacon and all this stuff, because we're kind of in a way children of Athena. We're the monsters, and they may be in this underworld or whatever, and maybe they want to get let out, right? And part of it is they have to work with beings on the that are out to unlock or get those certain barriers unlocked so they can get out or something like that.
I mean, the Philosopher's Stone, the idea of it being red or green seems to be a thing, pretty common. And it's used to bring you back to life or keep you from dying. Magical, maybe associated with a volcano or an asteroid, depending on who you talk to.
Yeah.
The Jolly
Curious what language those symbols were that was carved into that supposed emerald tablet.
Yeah, so I mean, just really quickly, look at this for a second. So it says, by the way, that this is a recreation here.
So that's also a recreation, I figured.
And it looks like Coptic. It looks like a Coptic, a Greco-Coptic, or like a Proto Hebrew, which was in Greco-Coptic. But I'm just going to guess that while I read what it says. So it says that most common story claims the tablets were found in a cave tomb under the statue of Hermes in Tirana. All right. Clutching Tartaria, there you go. Hands of corpse of Hermes, Trismegistus himself, just holding it as he dies. And there's a couple books about other living characters about 400 years ago that I would relate this to and say this is probably, one of those situations where they just make it into a magical character. And it's really Kermit the Frog who was in charge of Thoth, which is another green connection. Hermes, Kermit, Kermetics, K and H, Kek. And the creator of the Emerald Tablets has been provided in myth as the Egyptian god Thoth, or Tahuti, if you're cool, who Armando May writes divided his knowledge into 42 plates of emeralds, codifying the great scientific principles ruling the universe. Interestingly enough, you can find the divine maxims of Ptah Tep.
And he's green here. Thoth was green there.
Right. Thoth is almost always green or wears green. In the movies, he was black, but he's still wearing a lot of green. So it's unavoidable. And that would make sense because Egypt, Kemet, meaning the black ones of the black men. So it could be a thing. On the return to the dimension, was able to recover the mysterious book, right? Because he wrote this book in the parallel reality, and Thoth was able to bring it back from that dimension. So he's in a library in another reality, and he's friggin' green. Another legend suggests that it was the third son of Adam and Eve, Seth, who originally wrote it. Others believe that the tablet was once held within the Ark of the Covenant. So these are all, I wouldn't say contrasting. I would say any of these are mutually exclusive at all. You know what I'm saying? So Seth wrote it. Others believe that the tablet was once held in the Ark of the Covenant. Don't see why not. That doesn't really. How is that? Say the others aren't true. They're all connected.
Yeah, right. It could just be different portions throughout time of its journey, essentially.
And I can visualize the Ark of the Covenant doing that, being the thing for the parallel reality data that you're not supposed to bring beyond the realm. It's like the Apple Next cube. Okay, so
exactly, like crystals hold light and energy now, and solid state hard drive within a giant plasma capacitor bank that the Ark of the Covenant was. Who knows? Between the two angels, it could be like a projection screen or something.
Bro, right? A little bit of that hypercard, hypertext action going on. And that sounds like what he's describing. He's the only one who's able to go between and see that realm. Spreading stories of the... Some even claim that the original source of an Emerald Tablet is none other than the fabled city of Atlantis. How's that for your antediluvian conspiracy, boys? You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I feel like all of these are the answer. It's one long chain of stuff that happened to it. Spreading stories of the Emerald Tablet. While various claims have been made regarding the origins of the Emerald Tablet, as yet no verifiable evidence has been found to support them. The oldest documentable source of the Emerald Tablet's text is the Kitab Sur al-Halaki, Book of Creation, Secret of Creation and the Art of Nature, which itself was a composite of earlier works. This was an Arabic work written in the 8th century AD and attributed to Belinus or Pseudo-Apollonius of Tyana. It is Belinus who provides us with the story of how he discovers the Emerald Tablets in the cave tomb. Based on the Arabic work, some believe that the Emerald Tablet was also an Arabic text and written between the 6th and 8th century AD rather than a piece of work from antiquity, as many have claimed. I mean, I'll take either, really, but Belinus claimed that the Emerald Tablet was written in originally Greek. The original, I would say, probably not. Probably, Arabic, because Sanskrit wasn't written yet at the time. But it could have been from an oral tradition. Some say the text burned up in the Library of Alexandria. That's a bummer because it was supposed to be friggin' emerald tablets.
Right?
Nevertheless,
how is that even possible? The originals clearly were lost or are hyperdimensional or
I guarantee that they're on the wall in someone's apartment, probably Jack Nicholson's, Nevertheless, Belinus' version of the
Smithsonian. There we go.
Smithsonian, though. We gotta go deep dive into that again too. Belinus' version of the text itself quickly became well known and has been translated by various people over the centuries. For instance, an early version of the Emerald Tablets appeared in a work called the Kitab Ustukus al-Us al-Tanani, second book of Elements of the Foundations, which is attributed to Jabir ibn Hayyan. It would, however, take several more centuries before the text became accessible to Europeans. In the 12th century AD, the Emerald Tablet was translated into Latin by Hugo von Santalla. So that's where, and then, of course, what it means then is that the people who knew what it said, it was probably almost common knowledge across the Arabic alchemy scene in Spain, etc. And then when they get rid of Arabic and they have to start translating it, it's literally like 6 people, 100 people that have access to this stuff from then on out, right?
Yeah. Hey, there was someone named Austin in the chat that says he wants to join the stream. Did
Austin.
You see that?
Well, we're 2 hours deep, so I think we're going to be done in a second, Austin. I'm sorry, but if you hit me up in the Discord and get to know me, it's always a plausibility.
Yeah. Yep.
Austin, though, what do you got? Do you have a reason? Do you want to do a quick shout of something important? I mean, I'm a very open-minded person. So what do you got? Let me see here. What do you say here? Austin. I don't see it. But if you send me something and a reason, it could happen. I'm not against it.
But it's got to happen quick because we're already 2 hours in.
Yeah, I think that's the answer. I will do it next time. That could be the thing.
Yeah, we get back into this and try to dig deeper. I mean, there's always a lot to uncover. This is a big subject,
Right. Edward also connected with Green, Prosperity Guard, good fortune, happiness. What was you had another connection to Edward, right?
Yeah, the Edward Enigma, and also Edward Hyde, which is the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. So it's the crazy side has always got this Edward name in the beginning.
Oh, that's always, right. Edward Enigma, that's his name. I forgot all about that. Interesting.
Yeah, and then Edward Hyde for the Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde.
Yeah, dude, and the Green Guard, that's nuts.
He's
well,
hiding.
I see the Earth Elemental.
Yeah, I think we got into that a little bit. It's just, it's a sign of the nature god. And it's, got that giant sort of thing, which connects the green giant and the green dragon and all that. See, there's crystals coming out of it. It is Earth itself. And, Capricorn is also an earth sign, and is birth. There's like Mary of the rocks or whatever, or Madonna of the rocks and all that stuff, and it's Mary and giving birth to Jesus, and Jesus was supposedly born in the temple of Adonis, which was a cave, right?
Right. Yeah. So people say Jesus was born in a stable, but the stable was actually a cave, and that cave, turned out to be a pretty important one.
Yeah, Adonis, which is the god of death in the underworld, right? And this gets into Mithra and why Mithra is associated with the Jesus character and all this stuff. So it all folds back in, but that's kind of like ancillary stuff, and we can get into that another time.
Wow, snow-covered temple of Adonis. I want to go there. That's crazy,
right?
Dude, and the Ninja Turtles.
So fascinating.
Guys, is there anything let's think about this for a second before we disappear. I feel like I'm not quite done. I want 2 or 3 minutes of just basking in the green. What does the green make you feel? What do you think? What are some closing thoughts on this?
Personally, my mom's maiden name is Green, so there's that aspect.
Very
interesting.
Cool. Green is life, but green has been corrupted into the symbol of you got to make your green dollar bill.
Yeah.
Yeah, that Canadian money is way prettier. That's for sure. Xbox.
The colors of the rainbow.
Dude, Xbox was green. That was awesome. And it was definitely associated with Monster. Jello was associated with green. And yeah, the ooze, the Ninja Turtles drink that's green. There seems to be a lot of green.
Yeah. I think personally green is actually a good thing. I think just like they have gone after the witches and all this stuff, it's something they want to maybe twist to be negative, but we might be the green thing. That's the thing that we kind of get disassociated with is nature, right? People try to say that, everything humans do is unnatural, but how can we be displaced from nature? We were part of it, And so I think green is beautiful. It's just, some of these things, these monsters that are associated with it and everything, help make the imagery a little bit more scarier, but maybe that's the way to finding ourselves, just like finding Emerald City.
Dude. Guys, I'm seeing a lot of great comments here. These are great. And thank you for being a part of the conversation. If you guys want, you can join it forever at the Tartary Discord on tartarynova.com. Go to tartarynova.com, click on the Discord link. It'll take you to Discord. You'll be able to join the conversation. We have a lot of interesting stuff going on in the conversation. There's a page for every channel. All these guys' videos automatically post there if you ever miss anything. We have a radio chat as well. And, you can post memes, Starfort theories, cosmology, things about Tartarian Antiquitech, volcanosophy. If you're interested in library, we've got the library of books and things that have been books that you should probably know about that might have been lost to you. So get in there. Go to the tartarynovadiscord.com.
That's why I first met Xirtus coming into the Discord, right? You invited me in, and I got to know you better through the Discord.
Yeah, word. But I definitely saw you on the YouTube because you commented a few things in the early days, and I was like, oh yeah, there's a guy who knows his stuff. So
yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Dude.
Well, thank you for everything, Xirtus. I appreciate the time to do this. This was fun.
Guys, make sure you go. Yeah, and we'll do some stuff soon, by the way. And Bernie, hold on a second. But Giant, make sure you guys go to Twitter, Giant, and then click up on this guy, get himself followed. You can see the numbers are going up. I've been asking you to follow the guys who are doing the shows here. They're putting up the work, and I appreciate it because we want to make sure that that you can get access to this information. And if any one of us is silented, Swapcast, we'll put that data up there somewhere that people can get access to it. So follow Giant, and then also follow Bernie. Go to the Crypto Alchemist, get yourself up in his business. Sir. Click on that bell. I don't know why my bell. I think I might have unclicked it by accident. So there you go.
Unclick it for people too.
It seems that wasn't a personal thing. I think earlier when I clicked it to show people to click it, I clicked it out by you gotta click the bell.
And YouTube fucks around. Literally every time I go to sleep, I lose 20 subscribers. It's crazy. Every time I log off of YouTube, I drop 20 subscribers.
They don't like us.
It is hard. I don't make it easy for them. I'm a bad friend. I'm sorry, YouTube, but I'll do my best. For you guys, I don't think YouTube likes what I'm doing. They give me like a couple extra followers, and then I'll be like, let's talk about flat Earth. You know, they don't like what I do. I know it, and it's okay.
You know too much. You know too much. You're rivaling their AI, right?
Dude, Machine Gun Kelly once said, and I think it was Socrates first, all I know is I don't know nothing. All I know is I don't know nothing at all. Okay. I love you guys. I'll see you soon.
One last comment.
Oh, yeah.
We have to do another stream because you're saying it was cryptids. Maybe you covered it a little bit more earlier.
Let's do cryptids.
On the Sasquatch, the Loch Ness Monster, Stees, Ogopogo in Canada, there's one, but like essentially dinosaurs, dragons, and pterodactyls and the Thunderbird. Because if you've ever heard of Drumheller, the Royal Tyrrell Museum in Drumheller, Alberta, it's world famous for dinosaur bones that were found in Drumheller. I was out in Drumheller one time, honest to God, 3:30 in the morning. I swear to God, it was a pterodactyl. Something crazy flew the fuck over me. I got it with a laser pointer. The hair on me.
You know what? You're crazy.
Again,
you are Bernie. You're insane. You're insane. There's no possible way it was a pterodactyl. It had to have been a pterosaur, right?
Sure.
That was it was a pterosaur. Right. Okay. All right.
There we go.
Hopefully you didn't blind it and kill it too.
Whatever the heck it was.
You know what I mean, though? Because now they can tell you, oh, yeah, that wasn't a pterodactyl. Because it wasn't. It was a pterosaur. The way they did it. For the love of science. God, Neil deGrasse Tyson, calm down. Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
On that
Thunderbirds,
note,
we'll do a
much
Thunderbird
love.
thing. Cryptids, man. Peace and love.
The world is very different now. For man holds in his mortal hand the power to abolish all forms of human poverty and all forms of human life.
Begins a very special time of the year for us. It's the time of peace and reflection. One thing we should all be thankful for is that we live in America, where we have the freedom to change things and the opportunity to grow.
I, John Fitzgerald Kennedy, do solemnly swear
That you will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States.
that I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States
And will, to the best of your ability,
and will, to the best of my ability,
preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
So help you God.
So help me God.